I'm just going to give you a real brief one. First of all, I must tell you from a personal level, he's a wonderful person to work with. We've been working with Jim now since last July in this movie, and I must tell you, it's a pleasure. Rarely do you find talent mixed with humanism, as you do in Jim. He's a delight to work with, as well as a brilliant filmmaker. His credits, obviously, Terminator, Aliens 2, and The Abyss, not Terminator 2, Jim Cameron.
First of all, you guys stand up right here. Van and Jeff Burdick and Steve Quayle. These guys work for me. I know Dan at least was in this video right here. I think he's marking for a raise. He doesn't buy the music and so on. These are my Light Storm troopers. My company's called Light Storm, my production company, and Terminator 2 is the first Light Storm production. Archival Pictures and TriStar and Columbia, Pacific West. Anyway,
what date is it open?
Pardon?
What date is it open?
What, Terminator 2? Yeah, it's next Wednesday. But actually, you can see it at a quote-unquote midnight show on Tuesday night at like 10 o'clock. Which I guess they figure is a midnight show since it kind of goes a few minutes past midnight. I think that's logical. I can't believe they put me out here after Stan Winston. It's like every comic's nightmare. Come out after Stan because he's so funny. Anyway, Stan's a lovely guy. But I forgive him, and he's done such a good job on this picture that. No choice but to forgive him. And I really don't have too much to say. I don't have anything specific to say. Probably the best thing to do is to just let you guys ask what's on your mind, what you want to talk about, and we'll go from there. So, what's on your mind? This gentleman right here.
Yeah, when is the final complete version of Aliens going to be released?
Okay, he's asking about the final complete version of Aliens. And when that's going to be released. Now, there's been some talk about a special edition of Aliens, which is different than the final complete version of Aliens. I'd like to make a distinction. If you saw Aliens, you saw the final complete version of Aliens as a theatrical release. Now, the special edition is something that can exist only on video because of the fact that there are no running time considerations in a video release. You know, you can put out a 6-hour movie if you want, and if people get bored, or have to go to the bathroom, they can put it on pause. So it's kind of a different world. So the special edition video release of Aliens, which is 20 minutes longer, has been fully prepared. I spent 100 hours of my life about a year and a half ago transferring it, doing a brand new digital D1 transfer of the film, color corrected, pan scanned, all that stuff. Yeah. Under my supervision and Van Link's supervision, the guy that's Henry Fox is going to do with it. They've been sitting on it. It's tough. I mean, it's cut scenes. It's not like we're scraping around, trying to find a shot here and a shot there. It's all pretty good stuff. With The Abyss, no such kind of finished product of an enlarged or a special edition version exists right now. It could exist if there's enough of a demand for it. That's kind of up to you guys, right in the studio, that sort of thing. Besiege. I would request you to besiege the president the vice president in charge of video at 20th Century Fox. There's a new guy, I don't know his name. See, I had the deal all set up with the old guy who split to John Dolgen, who split to another studio. So that's how things go in this business. Seemingly real objects that don't really exist and manipulate them fluidically. That technology made it possible to do Terminator 2 Judgment Day, do the T-1000 character. However, I would like to point out that the T-1000 character, even though I didn't call him that, was my original idea for the original Terminator. Before I actually wrote the version of the story that had a cyborg with a metal endoskeleton and flesh over the surface, I had the idea of a liquid metal robot from the future that could take on any form and coloration that it wanted. And that would have been back in like 1981 or so. And then before I actually got to the next stage, which was to write the script, this was like a treatment form, I realized two things. One, I had no conception of how to do it, even though it was a cool idea. And two, John Carpenter was making a movie called The Thing, and I heard they had gone back to, the original concept of who goes there and the idea of a shape changer. And I didn't really know what he was doing with that movie, so I abandoned that and went a different direction. And then I just came full circle back to it after having figured out how to do the effects.
Get some. Pop that light up and shoot them.
Right, exactly. The technological advancements that were just happening, kind of broad spectrum in computer graphics in general, and specifically some of the software that was written for the Abyss, and some of the things that I knew were now possible that hadn't been previously possible, gave me the courage to write this character. And even thinking that it was possible, I went back to ILM and showed them what we were going to try to accomplish, and they kind of pulled on their chins for a long time before they were able to tell us that it was even doable, especially in the time frame that we had in mind, which was for them from the moment that we threw the drawings in front of them and said, here's the challenge, to the delivery of their very last completed shot was 9 months, which is, that's how long it took them to do just the one scene in the Abyss, and yet somehow we all thought it might be possible to do an entire movie that way. And we were lucky, but we weren't. It wasn't really luck because they're brilliant up there and they're very organized. This gentleman right here in the blue shirt.
Yeah, in terms of picture quality, why was the original Terminator deficient in color?
Are you talking about on video?
Well, I noticed even on Laserdisc, it's a little dull.
I was not involved in the. He's asking why the original Terminator on video looks kind of dull and, in his term, deficient. I'm not happy with the transfers that exist currently of the Terminator. And it's the only film that I worked on that I haven't personally supervised the video transfer. I didn't have the clout at that time to request it, and now it's an absolute part of my contract that I be personally involved in the video transfer every step of the way, and even to the point of having co-approval on the choice of the video transfer facility and so on. It's something that I believe strongly in as a director, that directors in general have to take responsibility for the fact that their work is going to be seen as much on video as it is in a movie theater. And it is a different format, it's a different shape than what they shot, and they have to accept responsibility for protecting the image. Because especially in a film like The Abyss or Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is shot in a CinemaScope ratio of 2.35 to 1, there's a lot of possibility for what actually boils down to kind of re-editing the film, because you have to select what part of the image you want to see. So it's very much a directorial process, transferring the film. Anyway, Laserdisc letterbox on Terminator? I haven't seen it, so I don't know how good a transfer it is, but to my knowledge, they haven't gone back and retransferred. They probably just masked the existing transfer. I don't know that, and I'll find it. They retransferred it? Van, do you know what it was from? Okay. I haven't seen this transfer, so I don't know. And once again, it was obviously done without my participation, because, once again, contractually, I don't have that right on that film. If they'd been smart, they would have said, Jim, come work with us on this transfer, and that way I would have been able to put my stamp of approval on it. It's probably better than anything else that's out there. I don't know. I just haven't seen it. I've been a little busy last few months. Yeah, the Abyss is available on the Letterboxd Laserdisc, although I made a decision that some people question on that film. I still think it's the right one for that movie, which is we didn't letterbox it at 235 to 1. We letterboxed it at 185 to 1. The film was shot at Super 35, which is a format that gives us basically this shape on the original negative. And then when we release the film, we actually give you, the audience in the movie theater, like about half that much by taking only the center extraction and calling that a CinemaScope frame. And that in turn is blown up to 70 millimeter and all that sort of thing. So then when we go to video, we actually have more frame height to play around with. So what I thought on this was because a lot of that film was about height or depth, and I was constantly fighting the scope ratio as it was when I was making the picture. We decided to letterbox it at 185, and so what you actually see on the letterbox is the full width of the original image and a little extra height, and it seems to be a good compromise ratio for the two. Because let's face it, you're looking through a pinhole on video.
Yeah.
This gentleman right here.
If you were to receive a project that you love, how long will your schedule allow you to get involved?
That space film by Stanley Kubrick, what year was that? What year did it take place? That's about how long I've got stuff. Yeah. No, we've got a lot of things cooking at Lightstorm, and a couple more projects with Carolco. But the thing is that these things are always in flux. If I got hit by lightning with an idea, or somebody gave me the ultimate script, we'd make room for it. But quite frankly, that hasn't happened yet. I've never had somebody hand me the ultimate script. And in a funny way, I almost hope it doesn't happen, because I like to get involved in the writing process and be a part of it. Yeah, same guy again. He's got something on his mind. Same guy again.
What attributes does one need to become a James Cameron?
Well, you have to be the product of Shirley and Philip Cameron, right? Or one of 5 such products, anyway. I don't know. I mean, I get asked a lot kind of what it takes to be a director, and I kind of have an answer that pisses off people, which is, if you have to ask, it ain't going to happen. What I intend by that is to challenge you, because it's not easy. You've got to fight. It's like a street fight. You got to fight your way up. There's a lot of other people out there that want it, and everybody's solution is going to be different. Nobody's going to give you a textbook, even if they had. Even if I could answer that question in a way that would allow you to walk out of this room and go get on the phone and make it happen, I probably wouldn't give you that piece of information, because I believe that the films that a director makes are an extension both of their raw talent and the annealing process of the experience that they gain for themselves along the way before they get to that. And I don't like seeing people who, just because they've written a best-selling book, or they've gotten lucky by writing a screenplay that goes out and becomes a film that makes $200 million, they suddenly wind up going into directing at the $25 million level. I disagree with that. I think the process of fighting our way up, from the original bootstrap proposition of not being able to get started, and then just one day you find you're doing it, that's part of it. And that, your films will reflect that later. So anyway, the moral of the story is, if you have to ask, it's not going to happen. But if you want to ask, it may. You know what I mean? In other words, the passion, the desire to do it is the most important thing. Gentleman in the tie right there. What's that? Say it louder. Or don't say it louder. Did you say Piranha 2? Shut up. Next. No, I'm kidding. Piranha 2 is a film that I got fired off of after 2.5 weeks of shooting. I kept the credit on my resume for exactly as long as it took me to get another film as director, and then took it off. So there. It's my resume. I can do whatever I want with it. It's my reality. Okay, guy with the hat in his hand. Well, all right. I don't know what that is, but so do I read this later, or I'll read it later. Okay, thanks. Nice thought. You have a script? All right. Just move it in a clockwise direction, past the stage and drop all the shit right now. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Right here, you're wearing a T2 shirt, so that's a start. Okay. You don't work for TriStar or anything, do you? Okay. Another plan. Right, yeah. No, usually he's asking, if I bring actors back from film to film, like Michael Biehn being the obvious one, and That's Henderson, right. And if I write the characters for them, no, that's one thing I never do. I never write the characters for my friends who are actors. I write the character first from kind of what the character is supposed to be, and then I look around and I think, who can play that guy? That's or woman, that's just the process for me. Michael Biehn, in fact, did do some shooting on this film, but the scene got cut. It was early in the film. I know somebody will ask sooner or later. There was a dream sequence. There were, as written, 2 dream sequences in the film, and you'll see when you see the film that now there's only one. And the decision was made both in terms of running time. The scene did work very well, but in terms of running time, and also because it seemed to give more power to the second dream, which is the most important one from a plot standpoint. So ultimately, I think it's that's part of the process you go through on film. I don't want to, by creating these special edition movies, I don't want to create a sense that the audience is always being robbed when a scene is removed from the film. That would be a wrong thing to start to think. It's fine to have a curiosity about the process that goes into making a film, but when an artist puts brushstroke on the canvas, he doesn't like it, he's going to paint over it. Not everything you do on a film is exactly the right thing. That's why we have post-production. That's why we sit back and look at the movie and think about it and make these decisions as we go along. So Terminator 2 represents the absolute best possible version of this movie that can exist, given the limitations of our collective talent, on the film. And anything that's been dropped along the way is for the better of the film in this case. Which isn't to say that it might not be interesting to stick them in a special edition later, so people can see the mistakes or the little detours that we had to explore in order to find the story. Because as you're working on a film, the film emerges to you. It's very, very fuzzy at first, and it kind of comes forward into greater clarity as you make the film and as you edit the film. And you kind of find out what the film's about as you go along. And that's part of the process. So, I encourage the enthusiasm and the scrutiny of the scenes that are done along the way, but one should never feel robbed by the finished product. This applies to The Abyss as well, because I do think that The Abyss, as it was seen in theaters, was the best possible version of that movie for theatrical release. Right back here. I'm almost blind, by the way, with these spotlights. Maybe I'll just move out of it a little bit. This guy right back here. Where are the girls, by the way? Aren't there any women out there? Here's one right here. I'm going to come back to you.
I've always appreciated the creation you have for strong women's roles, and I wondered where you got your inspiration for all of them.
I'm not really sure. Obviously, Sarah Connor was the first such character that I created, but I'd been attracted to it even before that. When I saw Alien, for example, I was still driving a truck in Orange County for a school district. I wasn't even writing, I was doing a little writing, for myself, but I wasn't making any money out of it. And even then, I enjoyed the creation of the Ripley character very much. So I don't know, it's just something that struck a chord in me as being right. And, I've explored that a lot since then. And I've always found a lot of positive feedback. The way I look at it is the audience is 50% women. And I've always managed to not kind of upset or alienate the guys, and yet still give something back to that whole, 50% of the audience that Hollywood seems to want to ignore, especially in genre picture making, which is kind of unfortunate. But hey, their loss is my gain. I'm more than happy to continue creating these characters. But lately what I've done is I've tried to show them, rather than kind of comic book, intentional role models, more as rounded characters. And Sarah Connor in this film has got she's got a lot on her mind. She's a difficult person, and that people should be prepared for that. Sure, she's strong, and she's a true warrior in the film. But what we see in this film is the sacrifice that you pay to make yourself that strong. And it's a very complex character, the most complex character in the film, I think, and a very interesting one that was exciting for me to write and direct, and one that I know exciting for Linda to act. The gentleman right next to the young lady was talking.
Yeah. Are there any particular actors or actresses that you would like to work with in the future?
Anybody good? Really?
Why that you would just like to work with if you know of the reputation in the business?
Well, there are one or two that I know their reputation enough to not want to work with, but I'm not to say their names, But generally, anybody good, the big frustration as a director is that, while I'm directing one movie, an actor can work on 3 or 4 films, so they get around a lot more. In a way, they kind of have more fun out of the process. But a director, he's still trudging along through post-production months after the actors have all scattered to do other things. So the frustration is that as a director, in a really good, prolific career these days, you may make, 15, 20 films? That's 15 or 20 actors that you get to work with, and there are thousands out there that would be exciting to work with, So that's kind of a little bit of a frustration. But I want to work with anybody that's there to act, that really takes their work seriously and isn't just there to take the dough. Now there was a guy over here that I cut off in the middle. Right. In fact, I work in the catering truck at lunch. A lot of people don't know that. It's one of the biggest sources of crew dissatisfaction. Sorry, on the sound? Yeah. Well, to me, the sound is. He's asking, about the personal involvement of the director in, the sound area. I'm very involved in that. Yeah, it's very important. The sound, the music. Music is an area that as a director, I feel the most removed from because, not being a musician or a composer, I can't speak the language. I can't write the notes. But I can convey the emotion to the composer, and I can be pretty articulate about what sounds I think will work for what scenes, and but that's the most elastic form of communication I think there is on a film. Unfortunately, with Brad Fidel, whom I've worked with now the second time on this film, I think I've got it down to a shorthand dialogue that works. In terms of the actual sound, the editing of the sound, the selection of the sound, I get very involved in that. For example, on Aliens, I augmented the British sound editing crew with a couple of guys who never, even though we won for best sound editing, and I won the Academy Award for best sound editing, the British sound editors never thanked these 2 guys who created about 80% of the sound effects for the movie. In my living room at my house near Pinewood Studio in England, we had banks of synthesizers and emulators and Fairlights and things like that, and moved all the furniture out, and actually created a lot of the sounds there. In fact, I was the voice of the alien queen that's in the movie. All this screeching and hissing and all that stuff. We just recorded it at my house. So yeah, I get pretty involved. Okay, yeah, right next to it. You gotta speak up a little bit. Just belt it out.
About casting choices for T2.
Yeah.
I heard that for the role of T1000, that among other people, Billy Idol auditioned.
Yeah, that's correct. Billy Idol audition. He's asking about casting for Terminator 2, Judgment Day, role of the T1000, and yes, Billy Idol did audition, and he did a pretty good job. And we were actually seriously considering him, but when we saw Robert, we knew he was the guy. So pretty much that simple. Actually, my biggest problem with Billy was that he'd been in a motorcycle accident, and there was some controversy as to whether he would be able to physically perform the part, and so we kind of just backed away from it. But he certainly was eager, and he's interested in acting very much, and he does take it seriously. So you'll probably see him sooner or later. Yes, this fellow right here.
Yeah, 4 films.
Oh, I meant the guy behind you, but that's all right. I'll do you right now.
Of the 4 films that you're here to discuss, is there one moment or one scene?
I'll talk about Martine Grant.
Good. Is there one moment or one scene that you can pick out as your favorite, and can you tell us why?
I don't know. That's a tough question. He's asking if I have a favorite scene out of the 4 films that I've done. I don't know. I mean, there would be 2 or 3. From a cinematic standpoint, I think that I felt like I first came into my own as a filmmaker when I did the disco scene in Terminator. Just because I've always felt that was a very subjective piece of filmmaking, and I was proud of the way it came out. And it was done very, very quickly and shooting from the hip. And so from that, I learned to trust my instincts. And the scene where Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio drowns and is revived, which is actually 2 scenes together in the abyss. I'm especially happy with that scene because of the fact that it is very, very effective for an audience who can participate emotionally in the scene, and it has absolutely no special effects or stunts or, it doesn't rely on any of those things. It's just 2 actors. And it was exciting to be able to to be the midwife of that performance, and to have my part in the creation of that, which is really, as a director, the biggest deal. Because that stuff is done in real time. All the effects and everything are planned over months and months and storyboarded, and they're kind of done by committee to the extent that people sit around a big table and talk about the images and how you're going to accomplish them. And it's kind of like, you throw enough money at the problem, you can solve it. But when you're on the set with two actors and you've got to create a little fire, if you don't do it right then at that moment, you move on to the next shot, it's not going to be there. It won't be in the movie. The guy behind who I missed.
I have a question about Aliens. At the end after the credits, there's a sound like an egg cracking. Did you do that?
At the end of the credits, very, very end, when like everybody else has left the theater but you, because you're damaged. Thought there would be something there. Right. Okay. All right. That's actually not an egg cracking. That's the sound of the face hugger. And it really only works if you're seeing a 70mm print, because it kind of comes from the surrounds to the left speaker, across the center, to the right speaker, back into the surrounds. It kind of runs around the theater once. Yeah, exactly. Maybe it might work on that. I don't know if it's got quite the separation. But...
Were you interested in making a third movie?
No. That was just this little kicker at the end. I'd already pretty much gone on record with 20th Century Fox that I wasn't going to do Alien 3, and so they never really bothered to approach me about it. Which, it kind of was always their thing. They had the rights to it, and somebody else created it, and I was like an interloper. I came in afterwards, and I didn't really see. Even though I did manage to make it mine for a short time, I didn't feel that it would really benefit either me or Aliens to go on with it to the next one. I had too many other fish to fry anyway.
Yeah. What's your next project, and what contemporary science fiction novel do you think would make a good film?
Trying to slide two questions that are totally unrelated to each other. That old trick. The questions were, what's my next project, and what contemporary science fiction novel, what do I like? Do I think would make a good film? Ooh, I don't know. The second I say it, I'll never be able to get it. I'm not even going to answer that question. My next film is an adaptation of a nonfiction book by Daniel Keyes, who wrote Flowers for Algernon, which was made into a movie called Charlie. And the book is called The Minds of Billy Milligan, and it's a true story of a man with multiple personality disorder, MPD. He has 24 personalities, or had 24 personalities. He's now fused and functional individual, but the movie takes place in the early 70s when he was first coming to grips with his disorder, and it involves a kind of landmark legal case in Ohio, and I know that you science fiction guys are like just bored shitless by this. I don't care. That's the movie I'm making.
Yeah.
Yeah, guy right back there in the blue shirt. He looks. I'm wearing a blue shirt? We're watching which movie? The first film, right? Yeah, they weren't supposed to do that, actually. Yeah, he's talking about the acknowledgement to the works of Harlan Ellison that appears in the video. It doesn't appear in the theatrical copies of the film. It appears only in the video. And for legal reasons, I'm not supposed to talk about that. But I will go on record and say I think it was a real bum deal. I had nothing to do with it, and I disagree with it. But that's all I'm going to say on the matter. Gentleman right next to him. Speak up. Belt it out. Long term? He wants to know what I hope to accomplish as a filmmaker. Gee, I don't know. more movies. That's what can I say? I mean, I love movies. I love filmmaking. I want to work with different actors, like I was saying before. I want to work with the best people in this business and learn from them, and keep making films, whether they be films that have an emotional resonance or have some kind of visual impact, or both at the same time, if that can be done. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. That's it. It should be a never-ending process, and I want to die in the traces. Way over there, you're going to have to yell.
It's on pause, dude.
Pay attention. His question was, what would be the best way to become a director? The answer is pay attention, because because I already didn't answer that question earlier. You gotta keep your ear to the ground, you know? You gotta hear the train coming. Okay, who else? I'm ignoring the people way in the back, but I figure if they really wanted to get their questions answered. Okay, this guy with the program over here in like Orange County. Yell!
Give me that thing and fix it.
Toughest shot. Well, let's see. Probably the most potentially dangerous shot, which of course none of you have seen the movie, so I'm gonna, ruin things now. But there's a shot where the T-1000, the bad guy, flies a police Jet Ranger helicopter underneath a bridge. And we'd originally talked about doing it as a miniature, and then we dropped the idea. And I was out flying around with a helicopter pilot at the location. And I said, okay, now for this scene, you've got to come down the road, get behind the SWAT van, and do this and do that. And then when you get to this bridge, you go over it. And he said, I think I can get under that bridge. I said, land the helicopter right now. But, of course, the funny thing was, I didn't know exactly how you found out. I said, well, how do you know if you can get under the bridge? You said, I think you can get under the bridge. He said, well, what I'll do is I'll take the helicopter down and I'll go under the bridge. Good thinking, Chuck. That's the best way to find out. So, actually, he got his whole ground crew out there, and they all kind of looked at it and did a lot of this, and then they hovered in just up next to the bridge, and they all kind of stood outside looking at the helicopter, and he just hovered right under the bridge at low speed. And then he sat down underneath the bridge, and I was on the radio. We were all back about half a mile, and he said, "Yeah, I think I can do it." So then I said, "Okay," to the camera guys. "Okay, guys, now get on the insert car. We're going to follow him under the bridge." Camera guys are like this. So the shot that's in the film, there are actually two shots. One following him under the bridge, and one coming out ahead of him. Where basically the insert car driver was me, and I was operating the camera because nobody else would do it. But it's a cool shot. And it was actually done, even though I make it sound highly adventurous and treacherous, it was done to the highest possible standard of safety. That this particular pilot was the most experienced pilot probably working in the business. His name's Chuck Tamburo. He's done a lot of stuff, and I had done a lot of flying with him up to that point, and I trusted his judgment. Which ultimately is what it's all about when you're directing action. You surround yourself with the best people, and then you have to trust their judgment. THX man right there.
What was your involvement with Point Break, and will you ever co-direct anything with Catherine Bigelow?
Well, Catherine doesn't. The question is, what was my involvement with Point Break, and will I ever co-direct something with Catherine Bigelow? I was the executive producer of Point Break. I did a considerable amount of writing on the shooting draft of the script with Catherine. Even though we didn't receive credit, which is an issue that I have with the Writers Guild, but I won't bore you with. And she basically is 100% responsible for the film from that point on. I mean, I may have made a few phone calls, but I was kind of busy myself. And I think if you see the film, you'll see that she's really coming to her own as a superb action and stylistic director, and probably, I think, the best female director in the world, although she hated if she knew I said that, because she doesn't want to have any kind of gender restriction put on her ability. She just wants to be the best director in the world. Whether I'd ever co-direct with her, she doesn't need it. Neither do I. I mean, we're both doing our own things, and she's great at what she does. She certainly doesn't need my help in any way. What I may do is just keep executive producing her stuff, and that way I get to put my name on these great movies and not have to do so much work. Yes, that's right. This gentleman just pointed out that is Catherine Bigelow in the video with the cigar playing Clint Eastwood. So you can see she doesn't really need any help from anybody. Gentleman in the lime green shirt. A big drought, It's going to be like just a deep valley with no water in it. A Hispanic woman to play Marine, and then I went to England to shoot it, and I found out in England they don't let you bring actors from the United States, so I had to find my Hispanic bodybuilder Marine in London, which fortunately worked out very well, but unfortunately, the woman that played Vasquez was not Hispanic. So I always felt bad about that, and I would never let that happen again. If I was faced with that choice again, I'd pack up my tent and I'd leave London. So that's an issue between me and British Equity. Yeah, I really shouldn't do this, but I'll do one more. Right there. Oh, what was that? Who's William Wisher? Bill Wisher's an old college buddy of mine who did some writing on the first Terminator. In fact, if you really scrutinize the end credits, you'll see his name in there for additional dialogue, an additional dialogue credit. He worked on 2 scenes, I think, with me. And he therefore seemed like a natural. And he's subsequently become a screenwriter and has his own credits in his own right. And he seemed like a natural for me to work with on this picture. We had to get the script done so quickly that I felt I needed a writing partner to keep the ideas going and to keep the discipline going at a high level. I think he did one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and he's done some TV movies, and I'm not sure what his credits are. He's written a lot of spec scripts, one of which I bought and I'm developing through Lightstorm, called Skimmer, and he's a working screenwriter. I don't have a list of his credits right here. Watch for him. Yeah, he's also in both films. In Terminator 1, he's the cop that gets his head slammed into the side of the police car. The guy that goes, "This is L19, we got to hit one felon," blam up. Yeah. And then in this film, he's the guy with the camera. Well, you haven't seen the film, but anyway, watch for him. There's a scene where the Terminator comes flying out through a plate glass window and lands on the ground, and there's this kind of guy standing there with a camera going, "Whoa," like this, and takes a picture of him. Little trivia. I mean, that's what you're here for, right? Yeah. Worthless information. We love it. Okay, this young lady right over here. Pardon? Yeah. Linda Hamilton has a twin sister, Leslie, and fortunately they don't look 100% identical. Unlike there are 2 other twins that were involved, or one other pair of twins who were involved in the film. So I could always tell them apart. But yeah, there was some confusion. Arnold confused Leslie for Linda once. Kind of gave her the shock of her life. I won't go into any more detail than that. I took Leslie to tell that story. Okay, am I going to get the hook here or what? Danny, save me. He came out 15 minutes ago and said one more question and disappeared. Not this band here, bud. Huh? No, I can't top Terminator 2. It's the best movie ever made. Neither could anybody else. What's that? Well, that's the other best movie ever made. My wife's film. Yeah.
The Abyss was one of the most encompassing movies I've ever seen. Are you going to be doing any more underwater type movies?
And if I do another underwater film, I don't know if there's enough money in the world to induce me. No, actually, there actually isn't. I would never do it for any of the normal reasons. I might consider doing an underwater film if it had a kind of an ecological message, and I got to work in the real ocean with real marine animals and do it right. Where we had a long shooting schedule. We're just out on a boat someplace, and it would be a real. Yeah, right. Why not? No, I mean, it would be that kind of film. It would be dolphins and sharks and whales and stuff like that. The real thing, as opposed to the underwater techno thriller that you just was. Oh, Dan, thank you. Did you have a nice break, did you? My pleasure.
Most everybody who's ever attended a convention probably won't see duplicated. Jim's been kind enough to give us a lot of his time, and he's going to hang around just for a couple of minutes because we have a special treat, and that is we get a little more music going here. We can bring out one of the stars of Terminator 2. Gentlemen, you'll know as young John Connor, Eddie Furlong.
Yeah!
Eddie, I'm going to ask you if you will read the winner of the Williams Valley pinball game. I'll read the winning score. The winning score today for the pinball game was 172,148,720. Eddie, if you could read that for me.
Dean St. Anton.
Dean San Antone. Dean, where are you? Roger Sharp from Valley Pinball is going to make the award. My pleasure. Where's Dean?
Dude. There he is.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Congratulations. Roger, thank you very much. Thank
Let's
you.
have a nice hand for Williams. Thanks a lot, Roger, for providing that pinball. We appreciate it.
This kid is great in the movie, by the way.
Let's see once again, the ladies and gentlemen, James Cameron.